Russia's Vladimir Putin has decided to invade Ukraine within days, U.S. President Joe Biden said on Friday after separatists backed by Moscow told civilians to leave breakaway regions on buses. A move the West fears is part of a pretext for an attack. In one of the worst post-Cold War crises, Russia wants to stop Kyiv joining NATO and accuses the West of hysteria, saying it has no plans to invade, while the United States and allies are adamant the military buildup continues. Warning sirens blared in Donetsk and Luhansk on Friday after rebel leaders there announced the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of people to Russia. Late on Friday, Ukraine's military intelligence said Russian special forces had planted explosives at social infrastructure facilities in Donetsk, and it urged residents to stay at home. The Russian Federal Security Service did not immediately reply to a request for comment, citing correspondents on the ground. Russian news agencies later reported that 2 explosions hit Luhansk, one of the main cities in Ukraine's breakaway People's Republic of Luhansk, and a section of a gas pipeline in the area caught fire. Earlier, separatist leaders in Donetsk and Luhansk issued video statements in which they announced the evacuations and accused Ukraine of preparing to attack both regions soon, an accusation Kyiv said was false. Hours after the evacuation announcement, a jeep exploded outside a rebel government building in the city of Donetsk. Many families in the mostly Russian-speaking area have already been granted citizenship by Moscow, and within hours, some were boarding buses at an evacuation point in Donetsk, where authorities said 700,000 people would leave. The evacuation started after the conflict zone saw what sources described as the most intense artillery bombardment for years on Friday. Ukraine was the most painful loss for Russia of the 14 former republics under its control prior to the 1991 breakup of the Soviet Union. Russian-backed rebels seized a swath of eastern Ukraine in 2014, the same year that Moscow annexed Ukraine's Crimea region. Kyiv says that more than 14,000 people have since died in the conflict in the east, as the Kremlin shows off its military capacity on several fronts. Putin was to supervise exercises of its strategic nuclear missile forces on Saturday. Russia has released footage to show it is withdrawing troops from the border, but the United States instead believes there has been a ramp-up to between 169,000 and 190,000 troops, from 100,000 at the end of January. New helicopters and a battle group deployment of tanks, armored personnel carriers, and support equipment have deployed in Russia, near the border, according to US-based Maxar Technologies, which tracks developments with satellite imagery. The Kremlin has tens of thousands of troops staging exercises in Belarus, north of Ukraine, that are due to end on Sunday. Belarus leader Alexander Lukashenko met Putin on Friday, saying beforehand the soldiers could stay as long as needed. Western countries fear a conflict on a scale unseen in Europe at least since the Yugoslav and Chechen wars of the 1990s, when hundreds of thousands died and millions fled. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock said she did not think a fully fledged invasion was the most likely scenario, but that Russia could carry out a coup in Ukraine, attack critical infrastructure or instigate violence it would blame on Kyiv. Since toppling a pro-Russian president, Ukraine has staged joint military exercises with NATO and taken delivery of weapons including US Javelin missiles and Turkish drones. Putin says Ukraine's growing ties with the alliance could make it a launchpad for missiles targeting Russia. As the crisis deepens, the West is also weighing its non-military options. How allies should respond to aggressions beyond an all-out invasion is far from agreed, US and European officials said amid differences within the EU. Those closest to Russia, such as Hungary, will be against any sanctions short of a military invasion, according to one senior diplomat.